The lecture hall fell silent as Professor Vexterray tapped her datapad, her three eyes scanning the attendance roster. Another standard day at Galactic Unity Academy, or so she thought. Today's lesson, she announced, her mandibles clicking with practiced authority, covers threat assessment protocols for hostile fauna, essential knowledge for any aspiring xenobiologist. In the back row, I Kiptel of the Servian Consortium, adjusted my auditory membranes. 15 cycles at this institution, and I'd never encountered anything that warranted genuine concern. Theoretical dangers, sure. Actual peril, never. Then the human walked in, late again. Marcus Webb shuffled through the door with that peculiar Deathworlder nonchalance, carrying what appeared to be, wait, was that a containment case? Apologies, Professor, Marcus said, grinning in that unsettling way humans do, bearing their bone-white feeding implements. Had to make a quick stop at the wildlife sanctuary. Abextahari's eye stalks retracted slightly. Mr. Webb, please tell me you didn't. Oh, don't worry. He hoisted the case onto his desk with a metallic thunk that made half the class flinch. I got permission. Mostly. I exchanged nervous glances with Pelenix, my Arquelian study partner. Her skin had already shifted to a concerning shade of amber, her species equivalent of going pale. Class, Vexterray began, her voice taking on that strained quality educators use when they're reconsidering their career choices. It appears we'll be having a practical demonstration. Mr. Webb, what exactly did you bring? Marcus's grin widened. Humans really shouldn't smile like that. It's predatory. Unnerving. Well, since we're discussing threat assessment, he flipped the containment case latches with casual disregard for basic safety protocols. I figured, why just talk about dangerous animals when we can observe one? The case hissed open. Sweet merciful void. What emerged was nightmare fuel given physical form. Scaled. Muscular. Approximately 0.7 meters of pure, coiled menace. Its triangular head swayed hypnotically, forked tongue tasting the air, and its body striped in warning patterns that screamed, I am death. Avoid me. Rippled with barely contained aggression. Everyone, Marcus announced cheerfully. Meet Noodle. She's a Burmese python from Earth. Perfectly harmless. Harmless. The creature he called Noodle was easily as thick as my torso, with scales that caught the fluorescent lighting like armor plating. Those eyes cold, calculating, utterly devoid of mercy, fixed on the nearest student with predatory focus. That student was me. I may have made an undignified squeaking sound. Mr. Webb, Vexterray's voice shot up an octave. That is a Class 7 predator. Constriction specialist. Do you have any idea? Oh, she's only Class 5. Actually. Marcus corrected, stroking the beast's head with his bare hand. His bare, unprotected, flesh-covered hand. Burmese pythons are pretty chill once they've eaten. And Noodle here just had breakfast, so we're good. Chill. He called the murder rope chill. The python Noodle, apparently, because humans name their predators like their companions, began wrapping around Marcus's arm, coiling, squeezing, tightening in what I recognized from our textbooks as preliminary constriction behavior. 23 students collectively held their breath. Marcus noticed our horror. What? This is how they show affection. Affection. Pelenix shrieked, her skin now flashing distress patterns like a broken warning beacon. That organism could crush your respiratory system. Nah. Marcus shrugged. Actually shrugged. While the python's muscular body wrapped around his shoulders like some grotesque scarf. You'd need a much bigger snake for that. Noodle's only about 4 meters long. Only, he said only. Professor Vexterhari had backed against the wall, her datapad forgotten, all three eyes locked on the predator now draping itself across the human's shoulders. Mr. Webb, standard safety protocols require. Yeah. Protective barriers, sedation protocols, emergency extraction teams. Marcus waved dismissively. But see, that's the thing about humans. We've been handling dangerous animals for thousands of years. My great-aunt Deborah used to wrestle alligators for entertainment. Entertainment. This is basically petting a kitten by comparison. A kitten. He compared a constrictor predator to Earth's small companion carnivores. I'd read about human cognition patterns, studied their bizarre risk assessment capabilities, knew academically that their homeworld's extreme conditions had produced a species with dramatically skewed survival instincts. Knowing it academically and watching it unfold before your eyes, entirely different experience. Noodle's tongue flicked out, tasting the air near Marcus's face. Her body shifted, muscles rippling beneath those warning striped scales, and her head angled toward the class with what I could only describe as hungry curiosity. She's beautiful, isn't she? Marcus beamed with genuine affection. Pythons are ambush predators. They wait, strike, coil, squeeze until their prey stops breathing, then swallow it whole. Isn't that fascinating? Fascinating wasn't the word I'd choose. Terrifying. Nightmare-inducing. Sanity-questioning. Those worked better. Now, Marcus continued, apparently interpreting our stunned silence as rapt attention rather than paralytic fear. The key to handling constrictors is confidence and respect. They can sense fear through vibrations and chemical signals. Wonderful. The predator could literally smell our terror. He unwrapped Noodle from his shoulders, hand over hand, casual as anything, and held her up for better viewing. See these heat pits along her jaw? That's how she hunts. She can detect temperature differences of 0.003 degrees. Basically, she sees in thermal. The python's head swiveled, scanning the room with those heat-sensitive organs. I felt distinctly like prey being evaluated. Mr. Webb, Vexthari managed, her voice carefully controlled. While I appreciate your enthusiasm, perhaps we should return Noodle to her containment. Oh, sure thing. Marcus agreed. But first, who wants to touch her? Dead silence. You could have heard a molecule collide. Come on, Marcus encouraged, that predatory grin returning. She's not venomous, completely safe. Safe. That word had lost all meaning. I'll pass, I managed to croak. Me too, Thulanix added, her skin cycling through colors that hadn't been named yet. Around the room, students found sudden intense interest in their desks, datapads, the ceiling, anything except the death noodle and its insane handler. Marcus's expression shifted to something approaching disappointment. Really? Nobody? Perhaps, Professor Vexthari suggested with admirable composure, we could observe from a safer distance while you demonstrate proper handling techniques. Your species' idea of proper and ours might differ slightly, I muttered to Pelinix. She nodded vigorously. Slightly is generous. Marcus shrugged again. How did he keep doing that with a predator wrapped around him? And began explaining python anatomy, feeding habits and environmental requirements, all while Noodle explored his torso like it was a particularly interesting climbing structure. I took notes. Mostly variations of humans are insane and never trust a Deathworlder's definition of harmless. The lecture continued, with Marcus demonstrating how to properly support a python's weight, how to read their body language, and most horrifyingly, how they occasionally tried to determine if their handler was potential prey by measuring them. If she starts measuring you with her body, Marcus explained casually, that means she's checking if you're small enough to eat. Super rare in captive snakes though. Super rare. Not impossible. Just rare. Now then, Marcus continued, completely oblivious to the fact that every student in the room had mentally updated their wills, let's talk about the really cool part. Feeding behavior. Cool. He said cool. Professor Vexthari's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. A bad sign in Catharian physiology. Usually meant the fight-or-flight response had escalated to option 3, freeze and pray. Noodle here eats about once every 2 weeks, Marcus explained, letting the python slide through his hands like living rope. In the wild, pythons can go months without food. Their metabolism is incredible. After a big meal, they basically shut down all non-essential functions to focus entirely on digestion. Pelinix leaned toward me, whispering through her translator, is he seriously giving us a nutrition lecture while wearing a predator? Apparently. I whispered back. Deathworlder logic. Marcus must have heard us because he laughed. Actually laughed. You guys are way too tense. Here, watch this. He proceeded to gently unwrap Noodle from his shoulders, and I'm not making this up. Draped her across his desk like some kind of scaly tablecloth. The python settled immediately, her muscular body relaxing into a loose coil, tongue still flicking periodically to taste her surroundings. See? Totally calm. Pythons aren't aggressive unless threatened or hungry. Unlike I said, Noodle just ate. When? Professor Vexthari asked, her voice tight. When exactly did she eat? Marcus checked his datapad. 3 days ago? Maybe 4? Maybe 4. The professor's eye stalks extended fully. Mr. Webb, The standard safety protocol requires a minimum 7-day post-feeding period before. Yeah, but that's for wild-caught specimens, Marcus interrupted. Noodle's been captive bred for 3 generations. Different temperament entirely. Trust me. Trust him. The human asking us to trust him while a 4-meter constrictor lounged on furniture designed for sitting, not serpent containment. All right, observation time, Marcus announced. I want everyone to note her breathing pattern. See how her sides expand. That's because snakes have only one functional lung. The left one's basically vestigial. Evolution is wild, right? Wild wasn't the word. Terrifying. Incomprehensible. Sanity eroding. But I had to admit, from a safe distance, watching Noodle's breathing was actually kind of interesting. The rhythmic expansion and contraction, slow and deliberate, spoke to an efficiency our species could only dream of. Now, Marcus said, his tone shifting to something approaching seriousness, here's what I actually wanted to demonstrate. Everyone's scared of Noodle, because she's a predator. Big, strong, capable of killing. But fear without understanding is just panic. He gestured to the python, who had apparently decided his desk was an acceptable basking spot and had gone completely still except for the occasional tongue flick. Humans lived alongside predators for our entire evolutionary history. We didn't have venom, armor, claws, or natural weapons worth mentioning. We had brains, pattern recognition, the ability to learn behavior and adapt. Professor Vexthari's posture shifted slightly, still wary but listening. So when I handle Noodle, Marcus continued, I'm not being reckless. I'm applying thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Reading her body language, understanding her needs, respecting her capabilities while recognizing that she's not a mindless killing machine. She's an animal. Predictable, if you know what to look for. He stroked her scales gently and something impossible happened. The python's body relaxed further, her head lowering in what almost looked like contentment. Reptiles don't bond like mammals, Marcus explained. But they do recognize safety, consistency. Noodle knows I'm not food, not a threat. Just Marcus. The weird warm thing that handles her properly and keeps her fed. Pellinx's skin had shifted from panic amber to curious green. So you're saying threat assessment requires contextual analysis, not just classification. Exactly. Marcus's face lit up. Humans do that. Their enthusiasm is infectious and disturbing in equal measure. A predator in hunting mode, dangerous. Same predator, well-fed in familiar surroundings with a known handler, manageable risk. But still risk, I pointed out. Oh, absolutely. Marcus agreed. I'm not saying everyone should go grab a python. Noodle's trained, I'm trained. We have history. But the principle applies universally. Knowledge reduces fear. Understanding creates safety. Professor Vexthari slowly approached the desk. Her eye stalks focused on Noodle with renewed interest. May I observe more closely? Of course. Marcus stepped aside. Just move slowly. No sudden movements. Let her see you coming. The professor inched forward, her scientific curiosity apparently overriding her survival instincts. A familiar feeling for researchers everywhere. Noodle's head turned, tracking the movement. Her tongue flicked. Once, twice. Then she simply watched. No aggression. No defensive posturing. Just observation. Remarkable. Vexthari breathed. The textbooks describe constrictors as highly aggressive when confronted. When threatened, Marcus corrected. Big difference. Sane. Aggression is a response, not a default state. Even predators prefer to conserve energy. Other students began creeping closer, their fear giving way to fascination. Still cautious. We're not completely insane like humans, but curious. Her scales, Pellinx observed. They're not uniformly colored. That patterning serves what purpose? Camouflage in her natural habitat, Marcus explained. Southeast Asian forests. The stripes break up her outline in dappled sunlight, makes her nearly invisible when she's hunting. Hunting what? Asked Vorn, a Pelaxian student who'd been silent until now. Small mammals, mostly. Birds, anything warm-blooded she can catch and constrict. Vorn's scales rippled, his species' version of a shudder. And you keep this creature in your dwelling. My apartment? Yeah. She's got a great enclosure. Heat lamps, humidity controls, climbing branches. Loves better than most students, honestly. That got a few nervous laughs. Humor, even in the face of predatory reptiles. Humans found humor. "All right," Professor Vexter announced, straightening to her full height. "I believe Mr. Webb has made his point, unconventionally, dangerously, and completely outside approved curriculum guidelines. But effectively." Marcus grinned. "So I'm not expelled? You're on academic probation," she replied dryly. "Again, but this has been educational. Class. What have we learned? That humans are unhinged?" I offered. "That threat assessment requires contextual analysis," Pellenix corrected, shooting me a look. "That predators are individuals, not categories," Vorn added. "And that proper knowledge," Professor Vexter concluded, "transforms danger into manageable risk." "Mr. Webb, please return Noodle to her containment before someone from campus security arrives." "Yes, ma'am." Marcus began carefully coiling the python back into her case, moving with practiced efficiency. Noodle cooperated, sliding smoothly into the cushioned interior. As he secured the latches, Marcus turned to the class. "By the way, if anyone wants to visit the sanctuary and observe proper handling protocols, I volunteer there weekends. We've got way more interesting specimens than Noodle. Way more interesting. What nightmare fuel could possibly exceed a 4-meter constrictor?" "I'll pass," I said immediately. "Me too," Pellenix echoed. But Vorn surprised everyone. "I might be interested. For research purposes." Marcus's grin could have powered a small starship. "Awesome. Fair warning though. The crocodile habitat is feeding day on Saturdays." Crocodiles. He had crocodiles. Of course he did. As class dismissed and students filed out, keeping a respectful distance from Marcus and his predator cargo, I found myself reconsidering everything I thought I knew about Deathworlders. They weren't reckless. They were adapted, evolved in an environment so hostile that apex predators became companions, where danger was so commonplace that they'd learned to coexist with it rather than flee from it. "Hey, Kip," Marcus called as I reached the door. "You did great today. Most species don't even stay in the room when I bring specimens." "That's because most species have functional survival instincts," I replied. He laughed. "Fair point. But you stayed. Observed. Learned. That takes courage. Courage. Or insanity." With humans, the line was remarkably blurry. "Same time next week?" he asked cheerfully. "What are you bringing next week?" I asked, immediately regretting the question. His grin widened. "Oh, you'll love it. Ever seen a honey badger?" I fled. Behind me I heard Marcus laughing and Professor Vexter muttering something about early retirement. Then somewhere in that containment case Noodle the python probably wasn't thinking anything at all because reptile brains don't work that way. But if she could, she'd probably be wondering why the warm things made such interesting noises. Deathworlders. Can't live with them. Can't convince them that keeping apex predators as pets is objectively insane. And somehow, despite everything, I'd learned more in that one terrifying lecture than in 15 cycles of standard coursework. Maybe that was the real lesson. Sometimes the best education comes from the most unexpected and absolutely horrifying sources. I just hope Marcus's definition of interesting didn't escalate further. Knowing humans, it absolutely would. The end.